In 1997, a healthy man in Kentucky woke up in the middle of the night, completely unable to move. His eyes were open. He could see his bedroom. He could hear his own breathing, and standing in the corner was a dark human-shaped figure. Watching him, he tried to scream. Nothing came out. Seconds later, it disappeared, thousands of miles away. An old Japanese diary, written more than 300 years earlier, describes almost the exact same experience. A person wakes up and cannot move, feels an overwhelming presence, sees a shadow standing nearby. Now travel even further back. Ancient Egypt, the same story. Ancient Scandinavia, the same story. Medieval Europe, the same story. West Africa, the same story. Native American tribes, the same story. Stop for a second. How? How did people who lived on different continents, spoke different languages, worshiped different gods, and never even knew the others existed, describe experiences that sound almost identical? Coincidence? Maybe. But the coincidences don't stop there. Almost every civilization believed that forests could be inhabited, that certain places felt different, that dreams could carry messages, that the dead weren't always gone, that unseen beings could influence the living. Not some civilizations, almost all of them. And here's what makes this even stranger. These weren't stories spread through books or television or the internet. Many of these cultures developed in complete isolation. Yet somehow, they reached astonishingly similar conclusions. So here's the mystery. Did billions of human beings across thousands of years all imagine the same thing? Or were they all trying to explain the same experience? For centuries, historians searched ancient texts, psychologists searched the human mind, neuroscientists scanned the brain, anthropologists compared thousands of civilizations, archaeologists dug deeper into humanity's oldest settlements. Each one believed they would finally solve the mystery. Instead, they uncovered an even stranger one, because the more evidence they collected, the less this looked like a random belief. Why do children who've never been taught about spirits sometimes describe invisible presences? Why do people from cultures that have never interacted report astonishingly similar encounters? Why do the world's oldest civilizations keep describing the same invisible patterns, the same unexplained experiences, the same unseen world? Coincidence? Shared imagination? Or is the human brain wired to experience something that every civilization simply gave a different name? And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The biggest question was never, do spirits exist? That's the question people argue about. The question researchers became obsessed with was far more unsettling. Why does the human mind keep arriving at the same belief, regardless of geography, language, religion, or time? Because of billions of people separated by oceans, centuries, cultures, and completely different ways of life, all keep describing remarkably similar experiences, then we're left with only two possibilities. Humanity is living through the greatest coincidence in history, or we've been trying to explain the same mystery for thousands of years, and that's where our investigation begins. The deeper historians looked, the stranger the pattern became, because humanity didn't just believe in spirits. Humanity kept inventing different names for what often sounded like the same kind of presence. In ancient Egypt, they spoke of the Ka, a spiritual double believed to survive after death. The Romans believed in the Manes, the spirits of their ancestors. In Japan, they're called Yurei, restless spirits said to remain because of unfinished emotions. China has its Gui, Korea has Guishin. In India, there are Pritas, spirits believed to wander between worlds. The Celts spoke of the Shi, beings from an unseen realm existing alongside ours. In Islamic tradition, there are the Jinn, unseen beings created from smokeless fire. Native American traditions describe countless spirit beings, different from tribe to tribe, yet remarkably similar in purpose. Ancient Greece had shades. The Vikings feared the Draugr. Slavic folklore warned of the Rusalka. Ireland tells stories of the Banshee. Latin America fears La Llorona. The Philippines speaks of the Aswang. Africa has hundreds of different names across hundreds of cultures, different continents, different religions, different languages, different histories. Yet somehow, every civilization kept leaving behind stories of an unseen world. Now here's what historians found even more surprising. These weren't just bedtime stories. Ancient Egyptians built entire tombs around these beliefs. The Chinese still celebrate festivals to honor their ancestors. Japan has shrines visited by millions every year. In Mexico, Dia de los Muertos isn't about fearing spirits. It's about welcoming them home. Across Africa, many communities continue to consult ancestral spirits before major life decisions. These beliefs shaped laws, kings, wars, burials, architecture, entire civilizations. In fact, there has never been a period in human history where belief in unseen beings completely disappeared. It simply changed names, changed symbols, changed rituals, but it never truly went away. And that's the coincidence researchers couldn't ignore. Different names, different faces, different stories. Yet underneath all of them, the same invisible idea kept surviving. So the question was no longer, why did one civilization believe in spirits? The real question became, why did almost every civilization independently believe in them? So researchers made a radical decision. They stopped asking, are spirits real? Instead, they asked something much more dangerous. Why do billions of people keep experiencing them? Because beliefs can be inherited, stories can be passed down. But experiences, those have to happen to someone. And that's when science stumbled upon one of the strangest discoveries about the human brain. Imagine this, it's 3 in the morning, you suddenly wake up. Your bedroom looks exactly the same. The door, the window, the ceiling, everything is normal except you can't move. Then, without hearing a single sound, you become absolutely certain someone else is in the room. Not a feeling, not a thought, a certainty, so real that people have jumped out of windows, called the police, and are refused to sleep in the same room ever again. Today, we call this sleep paralysis. But here's the twist. Sleep paralysis explains why your body won't move. It does not fully explain why millions of people who have never met keep describing almost the same visitor. A dark figure standing silently, watching. Across Europe, people called it a demon. In Japan, it became the kanashibari. In Newfoundland, people blamed the old hag. In Brazil, it was the pisadeira. Different names, the same experience. And that wasn't the only pattern. Scientists discovered something else. Hidden deep inside every human brain. Your brain is obsessed with finding someone behind something. A rustle in the bushes? Assume it's alive. A shadow in the dark? Assume someone is standing there. A creak on the stairs? Better believe there's a person than discover too late. There actually was. Because for our ancestors, making the wrong assumption cost almost nothing. Missing a real predator could cost everything. So evolution built us a brain that would rather invent an invisible presence than ignore a real one. Researchers call this hyperactive agency detection. It might be one of the oldest survival systems we still carry today. Suddenly, ghost stories, haunted houses, faces in the dark, voices in empty rooms don't seem completely random anymore. They begin to follow a pattern. But then, just as scientists thought they were getting close to an answer, they encountered cases that refused to fit the pattern. Experiences involving people who were fully awake. No sleep paralysis, no neurological disorder, sometimes multiple witnesses. And that's where one mystery quietly became another. Here's the part that surprised researchers the most. Human beings have abandoned thousands of beliefs. We no longer think thunder is caused by angry gods. We no longer believe eclipses are monsters swallowing the sun. We no longer think diseases are caused by evil spirits. History has erased countless ideas. So why did one belief survive? Think about it. Empires collapsed. Languages disappeared. Entire civilizations vanished. Science rewrote almost everything we thought we knew about the universe. Yet one idea quietly refused to disappear. That there is something we cannot see. Not because every civilization shared the same religion. Not because they copied one another, but because almost every new civilization arrived at the same belief all over again. And that is when researchers began asking a completely different question. What if believing in spirits wasn't a mistake? What if it was an evolutionary advantage? At first, that sounds absurd, until you realize something about evolution. Evolution doesn't reward what's true. It rewards what keeps you alive. Imagine you're walking through a forest 50,000 years ago. You hear something move behind the trees. One person assumes it's probably nothing. The other assumes something is there. If they're wrong, they lose a little energy. If they're right, they survive. Over thousands of generations, nature quietly favored brains that expected unseen dangers instead of ignoring them. And perhaps that's why the human brain became so remarkably good at sensing invisible presences. Not because they were always there, as believing they might be there was often the safer choice, Bo. Suddenly, one mystery begins to explain another. Maybe that's why almost every civilization kept reinventing spirits. Not because they all witnessed the exact same supernatural event, but because they all inherited the same human brain, a brain that evolved long before science, long before civilization, long before written history itself. And if that's true, then perhaps the oldest ghost story was never written on a cave wall or inside a sacred book. It was written into the human mind itself. But that still leaves us with one final question. If spirits were simply a product of evolution, why do billions of people still believe in them today? Even in the age of satellites, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence. Now here is the strangest part. The modern world did not kill the spirit. It rebranded it. Today, people no longer say a forest is haunted. They say, this place has bad energy. They don't always call the possession. They call it something felt off. They don't always say an ancestor visited them. They say, I had a dream that felt too real. The language changed. The instinct stayed. We live in the age of satellites, brain scans, AI, and quantum computers. Yet millions still avoid certain houses. They still feel watched in empty rooms. They still talk to the dead in their dreams. They still light candles, leave offerings, visit graves, and whisper to people who are no longer here. Not because they are foolish, because the oldest part of the human mind never fully disappeared. It just learned modern words. Maybe that's why spirits survived. They didn't need temples. They didn't need ancient books. They didn't even need religion. They only needed one thing, a human being, alone in the dark, hearing a sound and wondering, what if I'm not alone? That moment is older than civilization, older than writing, older than every empire that ever existed. And as long as humans fear death, dream vividly, sense patterns, miss the people they love, and feel watched when nobody is there, the idea of spirits will never completely die. Because maybe spirits are not just something humans believe in. Maybe they are what happens when the human brain meets the unknown and refuses to leave it empty.